What's up everyone, John from ARTV. I know it's been a long time since I've done a rap or hip hop review, but I'm back. I figured this would be a perfect place to start. I've been meaning to check out the ScHoolboy Q project whenever it dropped. I'd been excited for it ever since hearing Groovy Tony, the single, and there's a new version of that featured on this record with an extra verse from Jadakiss, but we'll get into that more soon. Blank Face LP, the fourth studio album by ScHoolboy Q. Of course, his first two just really saw independent digital releases through Dawg Entertainment, and then with Oxymoron, kind of his breakthrough record that really just kind of mixed up his feelings about how he felt about music in general, kind of pulling him away. All the fame, the spotlight turned to him now. Oxymoron debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 charts. And he had a couple of hit singles like Studio and Collard Greens. Studio not being a fan for ScHoolboy Q and myself personally. And it was a track he says is for the label. If you want to read up more on the interview that he did with Rolling Stone, where he just kind of talked about his decision to almost leave rap and then kind of coming back, putting a studio in his house, talking about how he feels about his singles like this new one, and of course Overtime, which apparently was just a song to appease the label. He doesn't really feel like it fits on the record, and I would agree with that. You can check out that link in the description down below. I think it provides some helpful insight. Even after reading that, I was still pretty hyped. I had been a casual fan kind of coming into this. I liked a lot of his guest verses that I had heard him on, all the way from Macklemore to Kendrick Lamar. Obviously his stuff with Black Hippie, which is fantastic. I love the remix of that part that they put out earlier this month. If you want to check that out, it's not on the album. I will link that in the description down below. If you're not familiar, Black Hippie would be the group that he's a part of with his Top Dawg label members, Ab Soul, J-Rock, which put out a pretty banging album last year, and of course the one and only Kendrick Lamar, who appears uncredited really on this record, but doing some vocals. I think I hear him in the background of 2 tracks, but only officially confirmed on one of them. Q seems to have taken a nod from Lamar earlier this year, putting out Untitled Unmastered, and of course last year putting out the classic album To Pimp a Butterfly. Everyone's still talking about it, and for good reason. It's such a damn good record. So thought-provoking, providing a lot of insight, and it's nice to see ScHoolboy Q kind of hopping on that trend, but not doing so in a way that he feels like he's just trying to replicate what Lamar created. He's making a lot of social statements here, and with the production choices, he rides the line between not only that classical production, a very jazzy and soulful feeling, but also some modern techniques, and there's a lot of transitions within these songs, like Groovy Tony / Eddie Kane would be one that I would highlight in particular, and of course Know You're Wrong too, which really splits up into 2 parts without even really doing so. There's not really necessarily 2 narratives going on here, but they do mesh together quite well. There's a change in flow, and I absolutely love it. Q shows us right off the bat with Torch. He's setting a dark tone for this LP. There's a lot of gang violence, a lot of activity, talking about his past and kind of where he got to today, what all he went through, selling drugs on the street, moving things with his friends, doing illegal activities, all of the stuff that he got into. And he does so over these awesome samples. There's a Jay-Z sample, there's one from 3-6 Mafia, there's several others that are definitely noteworthy, and it just really continues all throughout this LP with this fantastic production from the likes of Swiss Beats on Lord Have Mercy, which is a really just kind of soulful track. It's short and very sweet. And then of course we get to the newer, younger producer that I've really been enjoying as of late, Metro Boomin. Everything that I hear from him seems to be absolute fire, and we hear from his production style on the track Dope Dealer, which is an absolute banger. Those drippy synthesizers and electronics going in the background just set the tone and really captures what Q was going for here on this track. It's such an in-your-face kind of anthem, and we go on such a winning streak right near the kind of middle to end of this record, all the way from Groovy Tony, really even that part, which has grown on me a whole lot. I really didn't enjoy it right at first, so I guess you could say this record kind of bangs almost start to finish. There aren't really that many weak counterparts. It kind of has a slow start with Torch. Lord Have Mercy isn't going to be everyone's taste just because of that soulful affectation that it puts on, and then once we get to that part, we start seeing the production, and you see it being so consistent, even though there are a handful of producers working with this project. I think they absolutely killed it through and through. And then Q coming through with some very insightful lyrics like I was talking about. It was a little bit unexpected. Obviously, there are tracks that are talking about women and just the fame, where he's at this point, and you see him kind of calling people out on tracks like Know You're Wrong, where he's calling out like, you know, whatever you need to do to feel good about yourself, but I know that people are actually impressed, the women are impressed by actually seeing the facts, seeing the money, seeing the drugs, whatever it may be, and it comes through as quite the impressive track. And then By Any Means kind of talks about his friends or the people in his life who were trying to leech off of him and basically see that he's in the spotlight now, and he pushes them aside and says, whoa, back up a minute. You know, I don't know how I feel about this lifestyle. I'm still trying to take it all in. Give me a second to breathe, and it comes off as fantastic. There's some really catchy hooks on this record that I just didn't see coming, like the Tyler, the Creator produced Big Body, for example. I was kind of talking about it a little bit more subtly in some of these songs earlier, where he's talking about people aren't impressed, you know, you're put up or shut up. He's saying it a little bit more in your front here. Look, big body, big bends. Basically, show them what you've got. Either show it off or else you don't have it. Dope Dealer is obviously a huge firecracker in this LP, and Whatever You Want featuring Candice Pillay is another one that I've heard that voice before. I know I've heard her on another project. I can't quite place it, but I know I've heard her before, and she sounds fantastic on this track along with Q, and a song that is surprisingly not too poppy for its own good, but at the same time it has those pop elements that I could see this being the crossover success. I looked at Top Dawg and I'm thinking, Overtime was the song that you wanted to be like one of the singles for like radio or something like that? There's songs that are easily much more catchy, and I could see them not only being played on rhythmic radio, but really crossing over to mainstream success. Anderson .Paak has been a huge name this year, and unfortunately I still haven't dedicated enough time to his LP Malibu that came out earlier this year, but he sounds fantastic alongside Q on right near the end of this record, the title track, Blank Faced. Really just Q kind of diving into his thoughts here, reflecting on where he is. Obviously he's been doing that throughout this record, but he's kind of straight up addressing it on this track, that he's like reflecting, going back on these memories. And we see on not only this track of him being very conscious, of course the track right before that, Black Thoughts, and several other times throughout this record, Black Thoughts as a phrase is mentioned, and it shows up as like him addressing police brutality, the color of his skin, being looked down upon, and I feel like that's important now more so than ever, obviously, in light of recent events that have occurred, just such tragedies. I love it whenever a rapper can take us through a storyline, whatever's going on, and I feel like I'm actually in the criminal activity with some of these tracks. Obviously, Groovy Tony, a big one here. I just feel like we're driving away from a crime scene or something like that, and obviously we see that again on a sequel track from his 2012 record, originally like an interlude, Tookie Knows. We see Part 2 popping up as the very last song, the closer on his new record, Blank Face LP. This song is a fantastic story of just really, I guess, crime gone wrong, if you will. We see three friends basically going into some criminal activity here, and the cops get involved, and it seems like jail time or prison is being faced. Everything's on the line, and the beat really just captures that. It just kind of sinks in after a little bit. I think it takes it a little bit for it to kick in, and once you finally get the vibe of this track, you see how it matches really with the rest of this record. There's a few tracks that just don't fit. There's a few loose cannons that just kind of sail off of the course, and I would say a little bit distract from the overall enjoyment of this project, but really I don't have that many complaints. I don't like the track Overtime that much, and there's a couple of others that I could easily just breeze through and skip over. I don't want to discredit them lyrically, and I wouldn't say that I have necessarily been able to process or even understand everything with this record, as I don't always cover a ton of hip-hop, but for the most part I want to give you a recommendation with this record. Let it sink in over the course of at least a couple of days. I would say that that's really what it takes for this record to start hitting you. I didn't like all of the tracks at first, like I already mentioned that part earlier. I wasn't that huge on Kanye's verse on it. I was a little bit meh, but I started listening to it more, and it's so catchy. I think the beat is what drives a lot of these tracks, and you start actually paying attention to the lyrical content more as a result. Some of it does get repetitive. Not all of it is straight fire. That's not what I'm saying, but I do think ScHoolboy Q has pulled together a really impressive Blank Face LP here. I'm gonna go with a 4 for the new record. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of the Blank Face LP by ScHoolboy Q. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section down below. Keep in mind this was all just my opinion, so let me know about yours tastefully and respectfully in the comments section. If you'd like more info on the record, like my favorites, least favorite tracks, it's in the description along with the articles I mentioned, and of course all of my social media like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's all down there in the description. Go ahead and click show more and it will reveal all. Thanks for watching, hitting the like button, subscribing to the channel because friends don't let friends go unsubscribed. Other than that, I'll see you very soon right here on ARTV.